Good morning, Steph.
Okay, so we are waiting for this judge. You know, it's interesting. You made a point yesterday on Twitter. You said, in 30 years of prosecuting cases, I've never seen a judge make up her mind on an issue before the other party had an opportunity to respond to the request. This is dead wrong. Note, this judge, Eileen Cannon, was confirmed by Mitch McConnell's Senate after Trump lost the election. So we're waiting. I guess you were saying it's marginally good news that she didn't stop the review, but we don't know what she's going to rule or when, right?
We don't. And I think it really was beyond poor judgment for her to get the demand filed by the Trump defense team and say, I'm inclined to grant it before she even asked the prosecutors to file their position. I never had that happen. Usually, the way litigation works is judges ask both parties to file their briefs, make their arguments, and then the judge announces a decision, tentative or otherwise. So here's where I think she might be stuck right now. She's looking for a way to save face, because when you read the prosecutor's opposition to Donald Trump's demand for a special master, it just blows every argument Trump made out of the water. So I think what she may do, Steph, predicting what a judge is going to do is kind of perilous. But to save face, she might say, well, listen, I'll appoint a special master just to review the attorney-client materials that the prosecutors have already set aside courtesy of their privilege review. So that's a way for her to kind of save face, but not stop the process of assessing the national security damage Donald Trump did to our nation.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's not really about how the law works. It's about how the Federalist Society politics work, right? That's a lot of what's going on here.
I find it interesting that she has been a member of the Federalist Society since 2005, when I think she was 9 years old. Okay, that's an overstatement. She was in her early to mid-20s. I mean, who at age 22 says, you know what, I long for the good old days when slavery was still a thing?
Speaking of the ridiculous arguments in Trump's, you said prosecutors' court filing reveals that Trump unlawfully concealed classified documents in his desk drawers after his attorney certified he had returned all the documents to the federal government. I mean, not to mention, it doesn't mention anything about declassification it just... I'm trying to follow it even as a non-lawyer, what their latest claims are.
And declassification has nothing to do with the 3 crimes that are in the search warrant that the government, the prosecutors are investigating and likely will indict. Classification, declassification doesn't matter. That's just a Trump talking point by which he tries to continue to fool the gullible. But, when his attorneys, both of them, Christina Bobb and Evan Corcoran, full disclosure, I worked with Evan when he was at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. When they certified, she signed it. He allegedly participated in the search for classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. When they signed a document certifying to the Department of Justice, there are no more documents here at Mar-a-Lago that need to be returned to the government. That's not what defense attorneys do. The viewers should know that if you're representing a bank robber, the defense attorney doesn't sign a certification and deliver it to the prosecutor saying, no, I promise my client gave back all the money he robbed from the bank. That is not the way lawyering works. And that's why both Christina Bobb and Evan Corcoran now have criminal exposure of their own. Their loyalties are split as defense attorneys between representing their client and saving their own hide. And I predict both of them will migrate off the Trump defense team.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. Let's talk about Lindsey. Lindsey Graham ordered to appear before Georgia grand jury to answer questions about Trump. So explain this ruling to me. The judge agreed Graham's fact-finding efforts during those calls were protected and questions about those would be off limits, but ruled the senator could be questions about efforts to overturn Trump's election loss and any contacts he had with Trump and his campaign. As such, Senator Graham may be questioned about any alleged efforts to encourage Secretary Raffensperger or others to throw out ballots or otherwise alter Georgia's election practices and procedures. Likewise, the grand jury may inquire into Graham's alleged communications and coordination with the Trump campaign and its post-election efforts in Georgia, as well as Graham's public statements related to Georgia's 2020 election. So you had tweeted, losing has kind of become Lindsey's thing. His fear of testifying about Trump's election crime seems to be all-consuming. Stating the obvious, Lindsey is not someone who should be a member of the Senate judiciary. The American people deserve better. But what does this ruling say to you? Because it seems a little...
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but first of all, this was a resounding loss for Lindsey Graham. And I urge everybody to read Judge Lee Martin May's 23-page ruling, because not only does he lose on almost all fronts, she just eviscerates every legal argument almost in a mocking way. But I think Lindsey deserved it. And, you know, toward the end of her ruling, she said, and Senator Graham, you intentionally mischaracterized Supreme Court precedent. That is the kind of language from a judge that gets you referred to bar counsel, and I suspect he may end up being referred. How this man is fit to sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee is beyond me.
Yeah.
But here's what her ruling said. She said, we're going to carve out one tiny little exception, and we're going to just assume there's some speech or debate clause protection attached to it. And that exception is where you were asking about the election procedures in Georgia, because that might have been part of your fact-finding legislative mission. However, and she said this multiple times, you can and should be asked by prosecutors in the Georgia grand jury about why you were urging Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to toss out legally cast ballots. So when you parse through her ruling, it is a resounding loss for Lindsey Graham, and it provides him no protection.
Okay. One other aspect of this, you tweeted, Lindsey Graham's definitive statement that if Trump is indicted for his crimes, there will be riots, is reminiscent of Trump's statement, come to D.C. on January 6th, it'll be wild. These statements are not warnings, they are recruitment calls. I mean, you saw just in the wake of, Biden's speech last night, Trump is saying, oh, he's coming after you Americans and he's going to use the military. It seems like almost every day he says something that is yet another incitement of violence. Is that where do we fall on the First Amendment, or when it obviously it incited real violence, for instance, on January 6th, right?
Yeah, this should not be viewed as protected speech. This should be viewed as a call to arms, a call to action, a call to violence, right? Speech that is designed to incite imminent violence is not protected by the First Amendment. When Lindsey Graham, I mean, listen, we expect this of Donald Trump. When Lindsey Graham said, without qualification and without condemnation, if Trump is prosecuted for his crimes, if he's held accountable,
it was a threat.
There will be riots. That's a recruitment call. Stand back.
That's not saying there shouldn't be, or I urge calm. That's saying that's a threat. That's a direct threat.
And Lindsey Graham more and more seems like he is so scared of, for one thing, having to testify about and against Donald Trump in the Georgia grand jury. All of that suggests to me that Lindsey knows he has criminal exposure for what he did. And now, he's just kind of sliding down that rope, grasping hand over hand, but he really is running out of rope.
Yep. Let me just throw out another couple random names to you before we... Newt Gingrich, Ginny Thomas, just randomly throwing out some names to you. The House Select Committee investigating January 6th has sent a letter to Newt Gingrich seeking his voluntary cooperation to discuss his role in promoting false claims about the 2020 election being stolen. The letter to him said, some of the information we have obtained includes email messages you exchanged with senior advisors to Trump and others, including Kirschner and Miller, in which you provided detailed input into television advertisements that repeated and relied upon false claims about fraud in the 2020 election. These advertising efforts were not designed to encourage voting for a particular candidate. Instead, they were to cast doubt on the outcome of the election after voting had already taken place. What's your take on that, first of all?
Yeah, so Newt Gingrich is like a wart that won't go away, just keeps coming back. And what he said in those emails, and I want to talk in a second about the fact that the prosecutors of the J6 committee and likely the prosecutors have Newt Gingrich's emails, because that's intriguing to me. But he said we have to inspire Americans to anger, right?
Yeah.
And I think they did a darn good job, because look at how angry Donald Trump's foot soldiers were on January 6th. So mission accomplished, Newt, good work. But what I love is that Benny Thompson is always throwing shade. He said, by the way, we've got your emails to Jared Kushner, and we've got your emails to Jason Miller, and we've got your emails to Mark Meadows, by which you were pushing the big lie and trying to inspire people to anger / violence. He didn't use the word violence, but that's the natural extension of what Newt and company were trying to do. So what does that tell us? Where are they getting all these emails? Could Jason Miller be cooperating? Jared Kushner, probably not, but you never know. Maybe Mark Meadows, but, it's pretty ominous that the J6 committee has a whole bunch of folks' emails, because that sends a signal that you might want to get on the train or you're going to get run over by the train.
Yeah. Ginny Thomas is the other name, just randomly going to throw out. So urged Wisconsin legislators to overturn Biden's election win, but also in Arizona. So now this is 2 states we know for sure that a sitting Supreme Court justice's wife was in the midst. She emailed 29 Arizona state lawmakers, some of them twice, for weeks after Trump's loss, asking them to set aside Biden's popular vote win and select their own electors. New emails, so she also sent messages to officials in Wisconsin asking them to do the same. We know already she was in contact with Meadows, right, with John Eastman, the coup memo author. So what is going on? She had, of course, said, I'd be happy to come talk voluntarily to the J6 committee. And then...
Yeah, until she said she won't come talk to the J6 committee.
Right.
She is de facto being investigated by the Department of Justice for her potential involvement in the insurrection, I believe. And I say that because you cannot investigate the insurrection in the grand jury without investigating the funders, the planners, the organizers, and those who covered it up. She is one of those people. So I'm not saying she'll be indicted. We have to wait to see what, where the evidence leads. She is being investigated. And, the Ginny Thomases and the Mark Meadows and the Newt Gingriches, it reinforces the notion that the boots of the insurrection, one of them just got 10 years in prison yesterday.
Yeah.
The boots of the insurrection are paying the price. They're being held accountable. They're going to prison. And the suits of the insurrection, what I call the ruling class criminals, have not had 1 minute of accountability or justice visit them. That is a deep injustice at play right now that has to change.
Trump just said he would pardon this, among others, this guy that just got 10 years in prison for attacking a D.C. police officer. Is this the eye gouging guy, or is this a
the
different
guy who pepper sprayed Officer Sicknick, who died later that night.
Yeah. This guy sobbed in court. Count me, color me. Okay, he said, I wish the events of January 6th didn't happen. He went, I don't even know where to start with the former president saying I would pardon them and give them an official government apology. I mean, between that and Biden's speech, we have really never faced a starker choice. The fact that we're sitting here talking about a former president being investigated for espionage and overthrowing the government of the United States at the same time is let's just throw in the wife of a sitting Supreme Court justice being in a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States. And like Joe Biden would say, where are we, man?
Yeah, there's a legal term for Donald Trump saying, I'm providing financial assistance to the insurrectionists, and I intend to pardon the defendants who attacked the police and attacked our democracy. The legal term is providing aid and comfort to the insurrection and the insurrectionists. That's a crime. Donald Trump continues to dig his own evidentiary grave every time he opens his big orange mouth. And I do believe the Department of Justice is collecting it all up. They have to bring charges. If they don't, there will be a stampede of criminals running for office because they will feel emboldened that I can serve in office, and even after I leave office, I will never be held accountable for my crimes. These folks are going to be indicted.
Yeah. Well, this worries me because I'm having Mueller flashbacks. It says obstruction now a major focus in the Trump documents probe. I mean, isn't that what we were like? Well, they're going to at least get him for obstruction because there's 10 counts. But I mean, shouldn't we be? That's the other thing I'm going. Just because the espionage is a big deal doesn't mean we're going to forget January 6th, right, in the overthrow of the peaceful transition of power.
Yeah, who thought you could add espionage on top of treason? I mean, I don't know what significant crime is left for Donald Trump to commit, but I think the Mueller flashback observation is a good one, Steph. 10 counts of obstruction of justice, and he's never been held accountable for any of them.
Yep.
Here's how I distinguish those two. He was president when he was obstructing justice. He was doing things that were an abuse of his power and his office, but he was still president, and there was still some protection there, and not just from the horrific OLC memo that says you can't indict a sitting president. He left office. He stole documents, some of our most important national security secrets, probably compromised lots of sources and methods in the process, I think. And then when he was subpoenaed for those documents, he lied and he unlawfully retained them, and not as president.
Yep.
I think that's a different kind of obstruction of justice than he committed while he was president.
I feel justice is coming. And also, you know what else? Sexy Liberal DC,
Yes.
starring Glenn Kirschner. I will see you in person next time I talk to you.
Can't wait, Steph.
All right,
Love
me too.
you.
Love you too. Thank you, honey. SexyLiberal.com. Get it. 51 minutes after.